You're listening to the Agents Archive podcast. When she told me to really think about it, like less than 24 hours later, I was signing up for the real estate classes and like jumping all in. There's no such thing as doing part-time real estate.
Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of the Agents Archive podcast. Today, we're excited to be joined by James Brown out of Houston, Texas. So James is a realtor with NAN and Company at the Laura Bonck Team. And he's been in real estate for a couple of years now, and we're going to dive into his journey in real estate, where he was before, and sort of how he's built his business and the advice he would give to new agents building theirs. James, how are you doing today?
Good, Matt. I'm doing well. By the way, just so you know, I made the same mistake literally for months. So the bonk is pronounced bunk. They're Cajun. It's a Cajun thing, and so. It's not pronounced the way it looks. So.
Are they out of Louisiana?
So her husband is he's from Louisiana. Yeah, from Eunice. Yeah,
Eunice, Louisiana. Is that a small town?
Eunice. It's a very small town. It is what you call a crawfish farm town. So.
I love it. That is deep Cajun right there. So James, let's dive right in. How about that? So first off, I know you. Little background from through my brother. Y'all went to college together, and from my understanding, you haven't always been in real estate. So I'd love to hear kind of the background before you got into real estate and what led you to real estate, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, let me say that I've been thoroughly impressed with you and how you've kind of taken real estate and kind of be an entrepreneur yourself and just really run with it in West Texas. I remember meeting you. I guess when Mason was coming and checking out to live with us at the apartment. And so I think you were talking about being a cheerleader at the time. So I know you didn't go very far with that, but it was a fun memory.
So. Oh, how did I know you would bring that up? Man, I must have been like 10 or 11 back then, something crazy. That was a long time ago. I appreciate it a lot. Yeah, I remember meeting you and Brian when we went to go check out that apartment, and
oh yeah,
crazy how much has changed since then.
Oh my gosh, I know. We're both out in the real world, dads. I mean, it's crazy.
Old man.
So yeah, well, okay. So get back to your first question.
Yeah.
So before I was doing real estate, so getting out of college, I had a broadcast journalism degree, and I did nothing with that. Much like I would say probably 75% of people who graduate from college don't end up actually doing what their degree's for, right? Because you find what you're actually good at and you end up pursuing that and doing that instead. Well, I didn't know what that was. So I actually worked like 4 or 5 different jobs before I fell into real estate, right? But before I was doing this, I was doing financial planning with a big company that's all over the US. And I did that for about 5 years. It was something that I didn't see it as long haul, but it was good at the time because it helped me really grow and be able to get the confidence I needed to go out on my own to start my own business like this. And so I've been doing real estate now for just under 2 years, which seems a lot longer. But it's been an absolute blast, and I'm excited to dive a little bit more into that.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear. So your background in financial planning, I imagine just seeing how you interact with people and knowing how you interact with people, I'm sure that that led to a lot of the I guess professional stuff that comes into the real estate side, and you bring the fun aspect to it as well. And so what sort of motivated you, would you say, to go from the financial planning to real estate? Because those are quite a bit different.
Oh yeah, 100% different. Except for the fact that it's sales, right? It's dealing with people, and like you just mentioned, like it's one of those. Those are 2 different jobs that, even though they're kind of categorized differently, as far as like one is finance and one is more what you put finance under real estate, right? And so I think that what kind of motivated me was actually when I realized I wasn't going to use my journalism degree at Texas Tech. I went to the College Career Center. They kind of did like an assessment, and they actually told me that I would be really good at doing real estate. However, everybody and their moms has a real estate license. And so for me, I was just kind of like, yeah, that just does not sound like that much fun. Plus, I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself for me to be able to do this, right? And so it took me a while to gain that confidence. But I would say that towards the end, what really motivated me to really jump all in was my friend Laura, whose team I'm on actually. So she pursued me. She pursued me when I was actually trying to get my license to go and do loan originating at a mortgage company with her husband actually. So I've known him a long time, and so he was trying to get me to come work with him, and in that process, she kind of she convinced me otherwise. And so which, so it's a very unique situation, but at the same time, I also remember throughout the years all the people who told me I would be good at doing real estate. So it just kind of all really opened up. And there was, how sometimes when people tell you stuff and you're like, yeah, that sounds great, cool, yeah, thanks for that not helpful advice. And just kind of like all that like is stored in a box. And then when I actually like went to pray about it, that box opened up, and I was just like remembering all the people who have told me how good I would be at real estate. And so that made it very easy. Like when she told me to really think about it, like less than 24 hours later, I was signing up for the real estate classes and like jumping all in. So it was very clear to me that it was time. And I was really excited about it. But also, like, one of my biggest fans is my wife, right? She had confidence in it, and she had peace about me doing that, because as you can probably attest with yours, like it's nice having somebody having faith in you, but also knowing that, hey, you got to provide for this family, but you also have a skill set that I want you to be able to use. And so being able for her to have that peace and confidence in me really gave me that extra boost that I needed to jump right in and get going.
That's awesome. So it sounds like as soon as the idea came across, you prayed about it and that box opened back up, and you knew right away that you were called to do this.
Yes, that's
Did
exactly
you,
what's happening.
it sounds like you dived in both feet at the same time. Did you pretty much knock out your classes right away, or did you time it out over several months, or
No,
did you
so I
work
took
part-time ever?
nope. So what I did was I used, for now, remember, we're under at this point in time, I say remember like, but at this point in time, we're still in lockdowns. And so we're not still working remotely, things like that. So I took night classes, and then weekend classes. There was one overlap that I had to do, but I was still doing my job at the time. And I was still doing it during the day. There was only one class I had to take where there was one day where I was forced to be in the class. And so I took a sick day. But the reality is like I jumped all in with real estate, and I was still doing what I was needing to do until I could make that change. And so there was a little bit of an underlap where I was waiting to take my test, but I knew I needed to leave my job. And so that's when I kind of, I turned in my notice, and that's when I was all in. So it's sometimes it's easier to be all in, because then that like there's nothing holding you back, right? There's nothing that you have, like there's no netting over here that you're like, okay, well, I'm kind of doing this. This is like, I'm going to give my all starting right now.
Absolutely. And I think that's something a lot of new agents kind of use as a crutch, when in reality it holds them back from really exploring their full potential in real estate. So for people
Absolutely.
who might not be licensed yet, but are thinking about diving into this as a career, how long would you say that process was from the time you made that decision to become a licensed real estate agent to the time that you had your license and you were going to the office and you were a real agent?
Yeah. So I would say now, the state of Texas was really behind, mainly because of lockdowns, mainly because they couldn't allow so many people in at the testing center. So there was a little bit of a lag time. I would say, give or take, I would say max, within 2 months you can be up and running, right? That's if you're able to take all your classes and focus solely on doing that, and just knock them one after the other, and then you're able to get signed up for your state and national exam quickly. You're able to pass both those, then you're able to get your background check scheduled. I would say that within 2 months you're rocking and rolling full time. And so I don't think that there's it may take a little longer depending on if you have another job and if you're kind of trying to make a transition. But I would say that probably about 2 months is probably that time frame. Don't you think?
That's a really quick time frame. That's a good one. That's about what I was at as well. I did all of mine while I was working at a finance job, and I did that after hours, and I was motivated to get knocked out. So it's a similar time
Yep.
frame, but I could see how it could definitely take a lot longer if you're doing like a full job, and maybe if you have a bunch of kids at home or something like that. But if you can knock it out in a short time like that, especially, I feel like that gives you more you have a better likelihood of passing the state national exam on your first tries, because it's all fresh on your mind still. And so once you did pass those and get your license, how did you go about finding where to land? It sounded like Laura might have stole you from her husband. So it sounds like you might have had a place to land already and knew that you're meant to be there. But what about the Laura Bonck team called you?
So, Laura started doing real estate in Houston about 6 years ago, maybe a little more than 6 years ago. And she just kind of crushed it. I know I kept hearing, because we run in similar circles, and I knew her husband, but I kept hearing just how much on fire she was. And mind you, even though we all have networks, right? We all come from, whether you're selling real estate in the town that you grew up in or not, you're going to have networks of people, right? But Laura really had to work hard. She had to crush, it had to prove to people that she was worth using, that people could trust her. And so she really, really just was on fire when she started, and hitting the ground. And so watching her, and she and I are cut from the same cloth as far as energy level and ideas, and so we from a standpoint of marketing and stuff, she and I are always spitting ideas at each other, which is a lot of fun. And so sometimes I have to remember, okay, maybe this doesn't necessarily, even though this is a great idea, sometimes you're like, okay, this is not necessarily the market people are trying to reach, or maybe this is not the best way to do it. But she and I have good sounding boards for each other. So so getting to choose your broker is definitely nice. I fell into a wonderful brokerage, because I was coming into real estate knowing that I was doing this to work with Laura. And so for my situation, it was a little different. However, because I've met so many people who have done real estate for a long time, or even a short period of time, I've talked to people. I mean, I know that the importance of picking a good broker is, especially getting out, it's crucial. You need a good support system. You need people that, if you're going to pick a broker, you've got to do your research, right? Just like when you were trying to apply for schools, right? You want to do your research and figure out, okay, well, what schools have what programs or whatever else. It's the same thing, because not every brokerage does the same thing. Every brokerage is going to try to stand out and going to try to convince you that they are the better one to come work for. Whether that's commission splits, whether that's in-house marketing, whether that's lead generator, like there's all sorts of ways they're going to try to get you. And so you just have to do your best to decipher through that and say, okay, which one better fits me, right? And I think that that's going to be really important. Because you want a good support system. You want somewhere that's going to train you well, give you the support you need, and is going to, is not going to bring you down, right? You want somebody who's going to help you up. And so I would also highly encourage that if you're looking to get into real estate, and you obviously, I guarantee you know somebody who's in real estate. Everybody knows somebody who's in real estate. You get an elevator, like with 5 people, one of those people does real estate. It is like there's that many people who try to do real estate. And so call those people, talk to those people, ask them what their brokerage is like. Ask them if they have a team you could work on. That I would say that if you can try to get into real estate working with a friend, now, sometimes I understand there's hesitation there. But I just know that, especially from an experience perspective, having somebody that's not only a friend, but could be a mentor, is huge. So I would say those are kind of the ways to go about trying to find a brokerage when working, when you start out.
I love that. That's super important. And a lot of folks, when they're first getting in, they're only focused on the commission split, not necessarily
Correct.
thinking of, okay, so if I'm working with this person who's been, in the top 5% of the market, top of their game for the last 5-10 years, the amount of knowledge you're getting from working with them is worth much more than the amount of commission that you're paying to that team or that individual brokerage.
Oh,
And
100%.
if you're friends with them, that's even better, because you know the dynamic's gonna be there. And when you're
Right.
going in with a team, especially, or a brokerage where you're working closely with your supervisor or someone above you, it's really important to have a good dynamic. So something I always tell new agents is, like, don't just go to see if they'll hire you. Interview them. Make sure that there's some sort of dynamic there that you're comfortable with, and that there's someone you want to work with or work
Yeah.
for, because you're going to be spending realistically a lot of hours with this person. And that's something a lot of people don't think about. They think, oh, I'll be in real estate, I'll be self-employed, I'll work 3-4 hours a week and I'll make $250,000 a year.
Right.
When in reality, you might have some weeks where you're working 5-10 hours a week on vacation. But most of the time when you're busy, you're really busy. You're foot to the pedal, you're going hard, and you're working long hours. And the worst comes out in you and the people on your team sometimes when you're pushed to a breaking point in stressful situations, stressful
Oh,
deals.
yeah.
So knowing where those personalities align with one another is really important in that.
Well, and I think that that's right on, and it's because you can have a team of people, and I'm going to brag for a second about my team and about Laura, just because it is a very unique situation. We all complement each other very well, but we all support each other and have each other's backs. And so being on a team like the one I'm on is I'm very thankful, because I know that there's not a lot of people that get to benefit from being on a team with people who actually care about you, right? Now, at the end of the day, yes, we all want to get paid, but at the same time, we also know that we want to succeed as a whole. And so that's what Laura does a very good job at being a mentor. People are always say, I always call Laura my boss, and I joke, and I even tell her this. I say, I go, well, she's not my boss because I have to pay her to be on her team. So, but she's a very excellent mentor, and somebody that I, very, you can learn a lot from. And so, but I will say this: a lot of people going into real estate make the mistake, and our broker Nancy says it all the time. There's no such thing as doing part-time real estate. Like, if you're going to be successful in real estate, you have to be doing it full-time. And I think a lot of people say, I'm going to put my toe in it, dip my toe in it. And when they do that, they don't care what broker they're under, right? They're just like, I'm just going to kind of do this part-time. But it's like, you're not going to make any real money. Like, this isn't going to be something that people are going to take you seriously doing. Yeah, you might get 1 or 2 good, listings, or help 1 or 2 big buyers. But at the end of the day, you're not marketing yourself, and you're not, giving yourself that momentum for people to take you seriously doing it. And so I know a lot of people who are part-time realtors, and they don't really do that many transactions. Like, it's kind of so I just think that it's very important, like I said.
Yeah, and a lot of those part-time realtors are also what we call secret agents. They're not out there advertising, telling everyone they know that they're real estate agents. So when they're not hitting that income number that they say will put them to full-time real estate, they're surprised, but they're not really putting themselves out there so that they could do that.
Right.
So taking it back to when you first started, what were your first 3 to 6 months like when you were a new agent? What did those look like for you? Like your day to day as James Brown?
Yeah, it's a fire hose. It's one of those things where you have to learn being a business by yourself, right? I mean, you don't have anyone telling you to get back to work. You don't have anybody telling you it's time to make phone calls, or it's time to do this, or time to do that. I mean, you have to have the self-discipline to do so. And so I would say that, jumping in, the first, oh my gosh, I came from a world where I made 40 phone calls minimum a day, right? So I learned a lot at my previous job, and it helped me grow into, the salesperson, and being able to do what I am doing today, right? But I would make phone calls. I'd call everybody in my database. I know it sounds annoying, and it sounds like oh, well, I haven't talked to this person in 10 years. So time to reopen that door and have that conversation. But what I decided to do is be like super sincere, right? Like, I wasn't just going to call everybody and go, hey, how you doing? Okay, just kidding. I really don't care how you're doing. I'm doing real estate and I want your business. Like, that's not the way to go about it, right? I realize that this may take some time, but you need to open those doors, have those conversations, plant the seeds, right? Because people won't know what you're doing unless you're letting them know what you've done. So, I starting out, my main thing was marketing. Right. Marketing myself, letting people know. I mean, even you reached out right away. like, because, me being able to advertise on social media, sending out mailers, into people's inboxes saying, hey, I've made the switch. I'm doing real estate. And this is the team I'm on. I'm really excited. So just, stay tuned and check out what I'm doing. And then making those phone calls, right? Following up with people and talking to people, having lunch, having coffee, doing happy hours, like just trying to get in front of as many people as possible, and trying to see, where they're at, right? It's just feeling people out. But I mean, one of our biggest things that we have that we don't utilize is our phones, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many contacts I have on my phone that I don't, that I haven't called in a long time, right? Since college, maybe before college, and so it's just, there's kind of a scary factor to it, but it's like, I would say that my day-to-day was making phone calls, right? And let's talk about the first couple of months, right? Before I actually really got going. Because you don't really make a paycheck. You don't really make a paycheck until about, if you're lucky, after after a few months, right? Because you're having to lay that groundwork first. And so and that's a scary thought, but at the same time, that gives you motivation during the day to be proactive, right? And so I would say that, and people keep wondering for me, they're like, well, you're on a team, right? You get leads. I'm like, yeah, kind of, right? So yes, if people reach out about one of our listings, yes, Laura may throw it my way, but that doesn't guarantee that person's going to be a lead, or that person is a lead. There's nothing that doesn't guarantee they're going to be a client, right? There's pursuit, there is conversation, there is relationship building. This isn't just this is just going to work out for you. You've got to pursue them. And let me tell you, a lot of internet leads don't really go that many places. So but I would say that for me, working open houses on the weekends, making phone calls during the day, doing at least 2 or 3 lunches a week with friends or people that I know maybe moving into that transition of life where they may want to buy, or they know people who want to buy. Then we can have conversations and just say, hey, who do you know that may be interested that I may be able to reach out to? And there's no pressure about it, right? And so I would say it was a lot of that. And another brag about NAN Properties is, we have in-house marketing. We don't use a third party company for our videography, for any of our marketing. It's all in-house. And so that is something that is very helpful, because I pay for it, right? So it's I got to use it, right? It's and so I use it. That's why I tell all our new agents, I'm use it, because it's there for you, right? To help you grow, whether it's mailers, newsletters, whatever. And those are the things you got to constantly continue to be in front of people in order for them to take you seriously, call you back, or even consider referring you. So getting started, I would say phone calls, lunches, and posting as much as possible. You want to appear busy. I know it sounds awful, but you want to appear busier sometimes than, even if you're not that busy. You want to appear busier so that people know you're busy. I have not had that luxury yet of not being busy, but I do know that's key to being in front of people all the time, right?
And your social media is a prime example of looking busy. If anyone is on real estate social media in Houston, they know what you're up to. What is your Instagram handle for anyone who's watching?
My Instagram handle is James Brown 300.
Okay.
I probably should change that one day. That was that's an old I don't know if you remember, you're probably too young, but when AOL Instant Messenger, that was my handle for AIM way back in the day, and then I made that my email address, and then I just kind of started making that things, and so
kept it around.
James Brown 300 is the handle for that.
And check it out to see what James is up to. He is the king at posting on socials these days, on Instagram for real estate. And I think we can all learn something just from scrolling through his feed. So James, you do some stuff that I have not seen anyone else in the business do. You have probably the most unique video marketing that I've seen among every real estate agent that I know. So your announcement video for getting into real estate, for example, do you want to talk a little bit about that? I mean, that was like a full-blown music video.
Yeah, well, I've learned that as I'm getting older. I'm not that old. I'm 32, right? But but the reality is there, as I'm getting older, so do the people older, so do the people above me, right? So I think I'm going to age out the James Brown era of people who knew who James Brown is. So I'm going to milk it for as long as possible. And I'm going to educate some youngins about who the Godfather of Soul is. But yeah, so that video, I was like, I had to do something unique and stand out. And from the get-go, because Laura does a lot of great marketing. Her videos are fantastic, right? And so I have I have a lot. Like I said, though, she and I are cut from the same cloth, so we both have very good ideas. But she did her videos, especially with other people in them, I was just kind of like, yeah, that's not gonna fly. Like, I'm not a stand here by the corner and like, just smile kind of guy. Like, I was like, I've got to be doing things. Like, we've got to make this fun. We got to make things fun. And so that video really shows our brokerage and just like what we do when we help people sell houses. I mean, it is remarkable of just some of the content and the videography and all the digital stuff that we do for the houses, for the listings we get, is incredible. It's one of the reasons why we went out so many big listings in Houston as well, is because we have a fantastic team that puts that stuff together. And we're able to really, really hit all the spheres of not only NAN and Houston, but of Christie's International. So we're able to post all our listings all over the world, which is huge. And so being able to tap into that, but then at the very end of it, yeah, we did a little James Brown number and danced to that. And so I think it's on my social media still, but I had great fun. I had great fun doing that. I was about like 12 pounds heavier then, so I feel like I should probably redo. I was coming off the COVID-19, but yeah, no, it was. I've been having a lot of fun making videos. I mean, I tell you what, I don't know. This past year we did the Frozen one. I'm not sure if you saw that. And so where I rewrote the lyrics to Let It Go to get it sold, and we made a whole video for that, and I had a blast doing that. I got to go to a recording studio, so I got to sit down at a like authentic recording studio where they have like this massive screens, and the guy's just working his stuff, and I mean, and I got to sing into a mic, whatever. Yeah, so it was like it was hilarious. It was awesome, but it's just like getting to do that, normally I'm not a stranger to making videos. I've made videos all throughout college with Vine, before Vine became popular. I loved Vine, and I've always made videos, but be able to do something with an actual soundtrack and be able to do something with my voice was pretty cool. And so
production value.
Yeah, production value, exactly. And that was it. It was well worth the money spent for sure. And then, there's other times, Laura, one of her big claim to fame was that, not many people do. But she, like a couple years, maybe like a year before I joined, she jumped in the pool at one of her listings. And that just really got a lot of attention. And so, in one of the videos, I got thrown into the pool, and we're having to do lots of cuts lots of times with me in the videos because I tend to be more goofy than serious, but
I think your personality comes through in those videos too, and that's something that a lot of agents could learn from. If you're looking through just like regular real estate Instagram, it's a lot of very serious, uptight posts and super professional. And there's no fun or personality in it. So when you finally meet the person, it's like, oh, this is a totally different human being from what I expected from social media. But with James, I mean, looking at your socials and knowing you and working with you, what you see is what you get. Like, you're going to have a good time. And just seeing all the fun videos, another one that you've got on there that, I mean, I probably watched it 2 or 3 times through and sent it to other agents, was you were advertising for a listing that you had. And the whole concept was that you weren't moving out of the house, I think, until you got it sold. And you're like coming out of the closet like, hey, is it cool if I borrow this shirt? and the owner's
I
like,
forgot about that one. Yeah.
Someone buy this house so we can get James off of our couch.
So those are my clients. I actually met them at an open house the day before the big Texas freeze. Really? Before the power grid went out, and we all froze to death. I actually met them at an open house, and I ended up helping them buy and then also sell their home, and they're wonderful clients of mine. I definitely got them out of their shell, let's say that. But yeah, no, when planning my videos, I want to be creative and unique and different. I think that is something that helps you stand out in this industry, but it also, for me, it's not forced. It's something that comes natural. And I say, how can I have fun doing this? And that's how I live a lot of my life, is how can I have a lot of fun doing this? This may not be that much fun. How can I make it more fun? And so it's me, I'm in my element, right? But actually, funny story is, I actually had a completely different script and idea driving out to the suburbs to film that day, and completely changed at the moment I got there. That was off the, like, just random, you know what, actually scratch what I was going to do, let's do this instead, and just kind of wing it, and it turned out great. Got a lot of good publicity, and so I love it, but it's just, my head's always spinning with that kind of stuff. So
I love that. And I think that's something that's super important to having a lasting career in real estate too. Because if you're doing things that you hate and you dread getting up and doing the work every day to make your business successful, you're not going to continue doing it 5, 10, 15 years later. So finding things like you being in your element, doing those fun videos, someone might hate cold calling or door knocking, but they might love writing. So they could, start a real estate blog or start writing posts in their local newspaper or something like that about real estate. So when you're talking to a new agent, or if you're going to give someone advice on finding where their element is within real estate and building their business, like you found yours with those fun videos, what would your advice be to help someone find, I guess, their niche within the marketing and prospecting, lead gen, business development?
Yeah. So if you're jumping into this and let's say you're jumping into this, you've never done it before, or let's say you did this 10 years ago, and then you took a break, you became a parent, you started doing something else, blah, blah, and you're coming back. I would say that my advice, and it's something that I did this past fall. Brian Buffini is a real estate coach out of California. He's fantastic. I hear about a lot of coaches and a lot of different this or that, right? And we get messages as real estate agents all the time about people who are like, hey, would you like a coach? Or hey, how would you like to get more likes or more leads, whatever else. But Brian Buffini, he has this program. It's called 100 Days of Greatness. And it's a 100-day course, right? And you pay for it, and they send you a box, and that box comes with all this stuff. It's well worth the money. I did it with some people in my brokerage. And so we got to do it together, which I think that I know that there's people that have done it by themselves. But I would say that this actually is a fantastic way to get yourself back into the game, or get into the game. Because a lot of times we don't know what to do or where to start, right? And in this course, it teaches you that even if you're busy, even if you're a real estate agent and you've been busy, right? We're going to have months where it's slow. Even in this market, we're going to have months where it's slower, where we don't have as much going on. And it's on those slow days that really matter on how we're productive. It's in those slow days where what we do is going to count to help our business grow. But a lot of people don't know what to do in those slow days, or what to do when they start out. And so this Buffini course really teaches you kind of the ins and outs of structure, right? How to structure your day and efficient things to be productive. Now, because the reality is we're going to, every day is different in real estate, right? But if you can know that whether you have stuff on the calendar, or you don't have stuff on the calendar, you're going to be productive and it's going to help your business move forward. Like, why wouldn't you want to do that? And I'll give you snippets without ruining completely. There's things that, like writing handwritten notes to people, right? You're making your phone calls, scheduling your lunches, doing pop-bys, right? I know pop-bys are kind of, they're kind of laughed at, but they're really big. Being able to, if you're driving around and you're driving by a client's house and they'll drop by with a little pop-by of like a Starbucks gift card with like some sort of little cutesy like phrase or whatever else, whatever works for you and your style. It's big. And so these are all things that you can make your day productive if you can just focus for 3 hours and do these things. And so I would say it's well worth it. They give you a lot of other stuff as well, but I would say if you're just starting out, how to kind of get your netting is really is do that, or find some mentors, find some, centers of influences that in the real estate market that you think, wow, I would love to learn from them, and ask them, hey, can I come shadow you? Like, I think that learning and figuring out how to continue to grow is key, and you being successful, right?
Absolutely. And excuse me, I took it, I guess, probably 3 or 4 years ago, that Buffini course. So I don't remember
Yeah.
everything, but I remember what he talked about a lot of was all the different hats that you have to wear as a real estate agent. And he goes into the different responsibilities under each hat. So, you have the rainmaker, you have the business owner, the account. I can't remember all of them, but what you're talking about, the pop buys and the handwritten notes, that's something that even years later, I've time blocked every day on my schedule time to, even if it's just writing one handwritten note to someone I had a conversation with earlier in the week, or thinking of pop buys for future events. Like, some of the most effective pop buys I've had have been the cheapest. Like around Halloween one year, I made a bunch of little tiny gift bags. I got everything I needed except for the candy at the dollar store for like $25, little Halloween bags, ribbon to tie up on there, and little note cards. Filled them with a handful of Kit Kats and Reese's and stuff. Wrote a silly little punny note on there. I just dropped it off to all the clients and former clients who had kids. And you wouldn't believe, like, within 7 days of Halloween, I had people, hey, yeah, it was great to see you when you pop out the Halloween candy for the kids. I wanted to tell you, I have this client who's been looking to buy a house and they need to sell there. So let me connect you. Can I give you their phone number? They're ready to sell now. I'm like, absolutely. Thank you so much. And going on that, following back with those clients, because you have those people who, when you do those pop buys, those small little gestures, they're going to send you referrals consistently. And I've got some clients who, they've sent me 10 to 15 referrals since helping them with their house. And those are the clients that every time they send you someone, you need to be going back and being very appreciative, thanking them, send them a thank you gift. Like you said, like a Starbucks gift card is great, things like that. And usually get to know those people really well as well. And the whole Buffini, the whole method, his 100 days to greatness, his pathway to mastery, all that stuff, it really helps you find where you fit in among all the different things within real estate and what works for your business. So it's not necessarily just a one size fits all. He's good about, and his coaches are good about helping you find what works for you.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And like those pop buys are like everything that we do marketing wise is to stay in front of people, and is to show people that we're doing something, that we're not sitting around, it's like, and it counts. Like you said, you can get leads from it. You can get referrals from it, and that's huge, right? So what was, when you pass all for National Ice Cream Day, I gave away ice cream scoopers, with nice little ice cream scoopers with $5 gift cards to Baskin Robbins, and with a little tag that said, if you need the scoop on the real estate market, give me a call. Super easy, not like super easy, not hard. And I got some nice ice cream scoopers. So I was like, I'm not gonna give them some crap. I was like, and it's great, and it produced referrals for me. But I also had fun doing it, right? So. Yeah,
that's the key. Like, if you're going to hate doing pop buys and going to visit clients and former clients and stuff like that, that's not for you. Yeah. It has to be something you're going to enjoy. And
something that matches your personality too. It matches your personality, right? You can't force it. Like, there's people all the time that try to force like being somebody else. And this is one of the things is one of my biggest things I've had to learn in this industry. You kind of have to learn life anyways, is stop comparing yourself to others. You're not going to be running your business the same way that Joe across the way is running his business, right? Because Joe across the way is an engineer by trade, right? So he's a lot more quiet. So he's got his ways, but James Brown, like, is way more extrovert, and he's got his ways. I just said, we can't try to compare apples and oranges, because it's very different. But the moment you start trying to compare with people and just following people on Instagram and Facebook and just comparing yourself, you dig yourself into this hole. And when you're in this hole, it's hard to get out of. It really is. It's hard to get out of this hole where you're just self-doubt. And that's not the way you want to be. You want to be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm different than that person. I'm going to run my business different than that person. And like, I may not have these $1 billion houses to sell, right? But I am going to have something of my own, right? And I'm going to build something of my own. And so, it's very easy for us to get caught up in that, I think, just in life in general. But I think one of my rules is like, I don't follow people on Instagram if I'm going to compare myself to them.
That's a good rule. I like that. And I think if more of us followed that rule, there'd be less disappointment and less self-doubt. I know that's a pretty big feeling a lot of in a lot of agents, especially new agents who they haven't really gotten their roots established in their market, and they're seeing all these agents who are selling, $25-30 million in houses a year, and they've sold 2 houses for $100,000 each. And they're trying to be this person that they're not, and they're wondering why it's not clicking for them. And it comes down to finding who you are, what works for you. And there's no right answer, because it's going to be different for every single person.
Right.
So, like, kind of going off of that question, what would you say would be your primary source of business development? Is it mostly going to be videos these days? Is it the handwritten notes? Is it pop buys, or is it a combination? What would you say the breakdown is for you?
For me, my leads it's a breakdown of marketing, being able to market myself. People see my stuff, and it's just and then they I'm not saying I post a video and I have like 1,000 people wanting to use me. Like, that's not how it works, right? I post a video and then somebody sees me, right? They're sitting in their office and they see my funny video and they kind of get a giggle, whatever else. And then they go to the cube next door during lunch, and Becky says, hey, she said, what's going on? Oh, well, my husband wants to sell the house, but we don't really know how to get going. Oh, you should call my friend James, because I'm fresh on the mind, right? And so yeah, social media and videos are huge. I would say, your network and how you utilize your network. And then open houses. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I got a ton of leads last year from open houses. But it's the follow-up game, right? People don't, and I'm myself and sometimes bad at it. I have seasons where I'm just terrible at the follow-up game, and then there's some seasons I'm totally on it. But the reality is it's like, when you go to open houses, when you host open houses, right? I'm gonna specify that for people who are listening. Like, when you host an open house, when you have a brokerage, when you're in a brokerage and you get going, I would just send out a mass email to everybody. It says, hey, who's got a listing and do an open house set? And then just do open house after open house after open house. That was how I generated a lot of leads last year. It was just because I was just doing open houses all the time, which is great. Right now, we are in a crazy market where, there was a season where everybody who was coming in is not new to the game, right? Everyone who's coming in has already been looking for a while and getting outbidded. And so got a little rundown on that. But the reality is open houses are so good. I mean, I've met some really great clients through open houses. And so I would say that using that as a source of lead generation, and then, you know what? You've got all these people that come in, you get people to sign. You go and follow up with all of them, call all of them a month later, say, hey, like, just following up. Yeah, it was great meeting you. Were you able to find a house? We were able to sell this one, but didn't know if you were able to find a house or not. Even if they have an agent, you can just say, hey, is everything working out okay? Like, it's all about just communicating, because you don't know if somebody had a really bad experience with their agent. Broker is looking for somebody. That same story I use that as an illustration, because that happened to me, because I called somebody off my open house list and I said, hey, were y'all able to find anything with, so-and-so? And they're like, no, actually we fired them because, we had a discrepancy about some stuff. But we were literally talking this morning about how we need to find somebody else to buy a house. And so, like, it's that kind of, working
Perfect timing.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That wouldn't have happened if you hadn't reached out to communicate in the first place. And that's where I know, especially as a new agent.
It wouldn't have worked out if I hadn't gone to the open house.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very easy to go to open houses and say, oh, nobody came, or everyone was represented, but you don't know. Follow up with them. You don't have to add them to your email list and annoy them with emails. Just add them, say, hey, in a month, I'm going to follow up with these people.
And if you're doing 2 open houses every weekend, you're going to be generating at least 4 minimum qualified leads that turn into clients and turn into closings eventually. It might take some nurturing, but it's
exactly
fast and reliable source of business. It's not always the most fun, especially if you're standing there on hard tile floors and dress shoes for 8 hours a day on your weekends. But As a new
Right.
agent, you don't necessarily have the luxury of not being on your feet working hard. So it's a good way to get your business off the ground and use what you're talking about before, doing those pop buys and building up your referral network so that you're not
100%.
necessarily having to do two open houses every weekend for the rest of your life.
Yep.
If you were to break down the split of, prospecting, marketing, lead gen, what ratio would you say it was at the beginning when you first started? Was it mostly prospecting and less marketing lead gen? And is it now flip-flopped, or how has that changed from when you first started to now that you're more established?
I would say I'm definitely doing more marketing now than I was when I started. I think that prospecting was it has to be, you have to be prospecting, but you have to be marketing. That's the hard part, right? You need to have it as a very equal split. But we get so off balanced, and it's very easy to set that off balance. But we just have to continue to come back to, okay, like, because you have to go, how can I continue to prospect but also market? And that's where having a good schedule during your day, right? And it's setting off, going, okay, this is time where I'm going to market. This is time where I'm going to phone call prospect. This is, time where I'm going to try to generate some leads, and, and like that, the open house list, right? I think that that's a huge, I think that's big. I think prospecting and, lead generating are two different things. Prospecting is when you're, calling your friends, having conversations and saying, hey, who do you know? Whereas lead generation is, okay, these are the leads I have. How can I try to, get myself in the door with those people that are already, I know they're kind of interested in looking at houses because they showed up at this open house. And so I would say that it's fairly equally split now. I could always do more marketing. It's funny, you complimented me on my marketing, but yet I get told literally last year, I thought I did a great job marketing last year. But Laura, who does a fantastic job, I mean, she posts every day, just great stuff. She's always telling me I need to do more. So that's like one of my goals this year. It's to actually post more marketing material for people. And because the prospecting thing for me comes kind of naturally. So I do that pretty easily. But it's the marketing thing that you would think comes naturally as well, but it takes time, right? It takes time to do stuff, to think about things, and then to put it into action. So I think that, I would say if you're starting out, I would say that you need to make sure that you are you're spending probably more time prospecting than marketing. But you need to be doing all three across the board, because if you're not, you could be marketing all day, every day, and that's all you're doing. And that's great. That will produce some sort of lead generating, but it's not going to come nearly as fast without the prospecting.
Agreed. I hear stories all the time of new agents complaining, saying, I'm spending $3,000 a month on Facebook ads and I'm not getting any deals. What are you doing on the other side of that? Because if you're just marketing, you're not going to have a fully rounded business. A lot of that comes down to, when I first started, similar to you, I mean, I was prospecting from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Then after 2, I was going on appointments that I'd set in the morning, but really leaning in heavily on the prospecting. And once I kind of had deals that were in the pipeline, I was able to pull back a little bit from the prospecting and start equalizing that in the marketing so that it was a little bit more manageable. And the more that you have in marketing, I would say that the easier it is to handle client service as well, because that does become somewhat of a balancing act once you have clients that you're working deals with, on top of generating new business for the future of your funnel, so that you're not having that common roller coaster that so many people see when they prospect and lead gen, they get a client and they stop everything else completely just to focus on that client or those clients. Once they close those deals, who are they working with then? No one. So finding a way to balance all that is pretty important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's it's hard. It's hard when you have seasons where you have 4 buyers and you have 2 houses listed. Like, I mean, you got your hands full. And don't get me wrong, it's great, but you have to be remembering that you're like, okay, like and it's not hard. Like, to market, it's really not that hard, especially on social media. I mean, we have way more resources now to let people know what we're doing in outsourcing than ever before, right? And so I think that it's crucial. You're out doing showings, post some of those showings on Instagram, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be super crazy long or creative, but just post certain things about the house, ask people what they like about it, right? People will respond. There's people who love sitting on their phones all day doing those quizzes and crap. It's like, it's like, and so I think it's good, but it's at the same time, you're out helping them, you're also marketing. And then by having conversations with them, by being with them, you can even ask them. You can even ask other clients, like, hey, be like, do y'all have any other friends looking that y'all have gotten to talk to about this? Who you kind of you ask questions about. It's just kind of getting in there, and you're kind of trying to generate some more leads. And so like there's ways to do it without focusing on one, and then like you said, letting time pass, and then you have nothing.
So. I like that. And time management is super important when you're building up your database and getting those deals going. What would you say as you started out? How has your time management changed? Have you figured out like a schedule that works for you on a weekday basis or anything like that?
I've actually become a lot better at my time management. I would say as an ADHD person, I can go all over the place. But once I've learned, every year I like to come up with a word for myself and to apply that word to what I'm doing in my life. In years it's been discipline. And in years it's been, there's been different things that I've had, but I think that it's important to have discipline to be able to have good time management, right? And it's saying, I don't care what's happening. Now, mind you, your clients come first. So if you have a client who needs to go do a showing during lunch, but you scheduled, time to do some marketing, it's like, well, obviously you want to take them to see the thing, and that's okay. But then you just have to redesignate some other time for that. And so it doesn't, you don't have to give up things. You just have to redo that with our time. And I think our time, it's flexible, right? We do have flexible time. But what I've also learned is that I don't have to say yes to everything, right? I can also say no. I learned this, that if I have a client who wants to see a house, now mind you, if we've been in situations, it's like, hey, that's great. I do want to take you to see this, but I cannot do this right here. I'm not going to drop everything all the time because, I do have other things going on. I do have a family. I think that for me, I go, if I just said yes all the time, then I would get put into situations where I'm just running, and I'd burn myself out. So you have to have time for yourself. So I would say that my time management over the last year has gotten so much better. And that I wake up and I have a routine, especially now that we have the baby, right? And my baby is a routine baby. I don't know about your babies, but her mama is routine type A planner. So we have a routine baby. She knows when it's time to eat. She knows when it's time to sleep. So it's very thankful for that. But I go, so we're all on routines over here at the Brown House. But I would say I have a routine, right? And in the morning, after I drop my daughter off, I go and work out. After I work out, I come home and I shower and I make my phone calls. Now, mind you, half the time I'm at the gym, my day starts. Like I'm responding emails, text messages, phone calls at the gym. I multitask, right? I think there was one time I was talking to a client while I was on one of the machines, and she was like, "Are you working out?"
You sound out of breath.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I think that having good time management starting out is crucial. So whatever you need to write it down, whatever you need to do to make it that your time period, if you need to lock the door, find someone that's not distracting. That's the hard part. Sometimes it's like you can be very distracted at home. We work from home, right? Or I don't know where you work out, but I work out of my house, right? We have an office, but we barely just work from our homes. And so I have to make myself, right? So I set that stuff up, and I go, there's times where I lock myself in a room, and I lock myself in a room and I turn off my phone, or I don't turn off my phone, but you know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, okay, there's no social media, there's no nothing. I'm just making phone calls, and I'll go through and I'll write down on a piece of paper all the people I'm going to call. And then I'm not doing anything else after those people are called, or I'm doing this. So, it's staying disciplined during that time.
And that's hard to do. That is especially hard to do. But once you get that down and you have your groove that you can get into, everything else just seems to fall into place, is what it feels like a lot of times. And that's what a lot of people say. When I first got in, I remember talking to the agents who they've been doing it for like 20, 25 years. And that's the thing that they always say is the difference between agents who last and agents who drop out after 3, 4, 5 years is their ability to be consistent with sticking to their schedules. Because also on the flip side, saying yes too much, like you said, I mean, they could do a lot of business, but after 2 years of doing that, they're completely burnt out and they'd rather do anything else. So finding where your boundaries are with clients and where that starts and where that ends is super important. So
100%. Yeah.
We're approaching an hour now, so I don't want to keep you forever.
Solid.
Do you have time for a final 4 questions real fast?
Go.
All right, perfect. Number 1, what is your favorite real estate or business related book?
Never Split the Difference. It is written by Chris Voss. He is a former FBI negotiator. And he talks about how life is just a series of negotiations. And in our job, we have to be able to negotiate well, because that is sometimes the difference between helping somebody get their house or not getting their house. And so I read that book. It was given to me as a gift. And it was one of those books that not only do I enjoy hearing stories about how he interrogates and negotiates with, terrorists, but I also think that I got a lot of value out of it in helping me with my business.
That's a great book. I love that one as well. That's a good choice. Question number 2, what advice would you give a new real estate agent to help them build their business and have a successful career?
Marketing, beyond the phones. It's one of those things. Let's see. I mean, every dollar you spend on yourself, right, is a dollar invested into your business. And I think that you are your best investment. So don't see when you spend money on marketing, don't see it as, okay, I have to make this back, because you will, but see it as I'm investing in myself and into my business, because that's how we're going to grow and succeed. And also don't get down and quit. I mean, I think that's huge. I think we spend a lot of time comparing to each other, and then we get really down, and then we said, you know what, forget it, I'm not doing this. And that's why real estate has a high turnover rate. And so it's because people start doing that. So
I love that. Yeah, finding a team like you did with the Bonck team who is lifting each other up rather than standing on each other's shoulders is huge. Absolutely. Question number 3, what are your goals for the next year, James Brown?
So the word this year is action. Is to take more action. When I think of things, I'm going to do them. There's a lot of times I spend a lot of time planning them and I don't actually pull the cord and pull the trigger. And so I am going to take more action. I want to produce more content. I want to write more letters. I want to do more lunches. But I think that there's a lot of good in spending time with people, spending time with good people. And so I have designated a couple kind of center of influences of people that I would consider not just role models in the business or in business world, but people that I can learn from and grow from. I've kind of targeted out those people. And so it's my goal to really invest time with them and just learn what they have to say. Because I think that's something that's super important in our ability to continue to grow.
Powerful. I think that's something that we could all incorporate into our next year ahead of us and learn from. So we'll be watching to see how those go for you. And number 4 is, what's the best way for listeners to get in touch with you?
Best way, you can message me on social media. My hand at Instagram is James Brown 300. It's the same, I think, I don't know, on Facebook, but you can reach out to me on. If I'm on LinkedIn, I'm not on LinkedIn as much. You do a good job being on LinkedIn, I feel like. But I need to be better. But you can always give me a phone call. That stuff is on my social media as well. And I would, if you have questions about becoming a real estate agent in Houston, I'd be happy to help you. I think over the last 6 months, I think I've had about a dozen people reach out to me, ask me about joining real estate and just wanting to kind of know ins and outs. And I love it. I love being able to help people make that decision, or not even help make the decision, but help give them some confidence in moving forward. So
I love that, James. And thank you. We'll link all that in the show notes as well, so people can reach out. And Perfect. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to listen to the first episode of the Agents Archive podcast.